During the 19th century, under the long reign of Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom, the British monarchy wielded an unparalleled influence across Europe and the wider world. Queen Victoria and her consort, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, built a large family whose members entered into marital alliances with many of Europe's reigning houses, thus weaving a dense dynastic web across the continent. Within this context, Prince Alfred Ernest Albert, the second son and fourth child of Victoria and Albert, emerged as a figure of considerable dynastic significance in Europe. His life, marked by naval duty, international family ties, and the governance of a German duchy, reflects the close interconnection between the British Crown and the European monarchies of the 19th century. Living a sober life devoted to service, Alfred journeyed from birth within the British royal family to ruling a ducal throne in Germany, symbolizing the global reach and multifaceted responsibilities of the Victorian princes. Before we continue with this fascinating biography, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Without further ado, let's begin. Alfred was born on the 6th of August 1844 at Windsor Castle, England, into the British royal family. The son of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, he was styled His Royal Highness from birth and initially stood second in line to the British throne, immediately after his elder brother, the Prince of Wales, Edward, the future King Edward VII. His parents, emblematic representatives of the Victorian monarchy, instilled in their children a strict upbringing and a profound sense of duty. Known within the family as Affi, the young prince displayed an early inclination towards the sea. In accordance with his parents' wishes and his own vocation, it was decided that Alfred should pursue a career in the Royal Navy. During his childhood and youth, Alfred was educated mainly by private tutors, following royal tradition. He studied languages, history, and the sciences, but excelled particularly in nautical subjects in keeping with his future naval career. In 1856, at the age of just 12, arrangements were made for him to begin his naval training. A year later, in August 1858, Alfred passed the demanding entrance examination for the Royal Navy and formally enlisted as a naval cadet at the age of 14. This step would shape the course of his life, distancing him from court intrigues and leading him towards a path defined by maritime discipline and active service. After joining the Navy, young Prince Alfred underwent rigorous training and was assigned to his first ship, the frigate HMS Euryalus, as a midshipman. His early years of service allowed him to travel extensively to various parts of the British Empire. In 1860, for instance, his vessel called at the Cape Colony in southern Africa, where the prince made a favorable impression on both the British settlers and the local leaders. That early contact with distant lands and diverse cultures broadened his horizons beyond the confines of Windsor, tempering his character under the demanding conditions of naval life. An episode of international politics briefly placed Alfred at the center of European attention during his youth. In 1862, after the expulsion of King Otto I of Greece, several factions in Athens proposed Prince Alfred as the new Hellenic monarch. The young Briton was even elected by popular referendum as King of the Hellenes, enjoying wide support among the Greek people. However, diplomatic considerations and international political conventions prevented the offer from being realized. The British government, and Queen Victoria herself, rejected the idea that a member of the royal family should occupy a foreign throne at that time, partly because another dynastic future had already been envisaged for Alfred, the eventual succession to the German duchy of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Ultimately, the Greek throne was taken by Prince William of Denmark, who became King George I of Greece, while Alfred continued his naval career, remaining firmly within the British sphere. Undeterred by the missed opportunity, Prince Alfred continued to advance through the naval ranks. He was promoted to the rank of lieutenant on the 24th of February 1863 at the age of 18, which allowed him to assume greater responsibilities on board. During those years, he served in various naval stations, including postings in the North Sea, the Mediterranean, and the West Indies, demonstrating skill in maritime duties and earning the respect of his superiors. On 23rd of February 1866, at just 21 years of age, he achieved the rank of captain, establishing himself as a capable and dedicated officer within the Royal Navy. Alongside his military advancement, the year 1866 also brought Prince Alfred an important noble distinction. On 24th May of that year, Queen Victoria invested her son with the title of Duke of Edinburgh, further bestowing upon him the subsidiary titles of Earl of Kent and Earl of Ulster. These honours within the British peerage were accompanied by an annual parliamentary allowance of £15,000 intended to sustain his ducal position and marked both Alfred's coming of age and his growing prominence within the royal house. From June 1866, the new Duke of Edinburgh took his seat in the House of Lords of the United Kingdom, thereby assuming a role in the ceremonial and political functions of the British monarchy. At 22, Alfred was already a nobleman in his own right, a commanding naval officer, and a prince of increasing public stature. Holding the rank of captain and commanding his own frigate, HMS Galatea, Prince Alfred embarked towards the end of the 1860s on a momentous voyage that would take him around the globe and make him the first British prince to visit several remote regions of the empire. He set sail from Plymouth in January 1867 to begin an ambitious goodwill tour around the world. After crossing the Mediterranean, the Galatea headed for South America, where in June 1867 the Duke paid an official visit to Emperor Pedro II of Brazil. Continuing his voyage, the Duke of Edinburgh sailed around the southern tip of Africa and subsequently made for Australia, then a distant colony that had never before been visited by a member of the British royal family. On 31st October 1867, the Galatea arrived at Glenelg, on the coast of South Australia. Thus began the first royal visit in Australia's history, an event that generated enormous excitement among the colonists. For nearly 5 months, the prince toured several Australian colonies. He visited Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and even distant Tasmania. Crowds greeted Queen Victoria's son with great festivity, seeing in his presence a living symbol of their direct bond with the crown. However, amid the celebrations, a dramatic event occurred that shocked the entire empire. On 12th March 1868, during Alfred's second stay in Sydney, a man named Henry James O'Farrell attempted to take his life. While the Duke was attending a public picnic at Clontarf Gardens, the Irish nationalist approached and fired at close range, seriously wounding him with a bullet near the spine. Alfred collapsed to the ground before the horrified crowd. The swift reaction of the onlookers and his entourage subdued the assailant immediately, preventing a second shot. The prince was rushed to receive medical care, and a team of nurses trained under the renowned Florence Nightingale, who happened to be in Australia at the time, assisted in treating his wound. For days, Alfred's condition held both the local population and the British public in anxious suspense. Fortunately, the young Duke recovered steadily after several weeks of convalescence and was declared out of danger by the end of March 1868. The public reaction in Australia to the attempted assassination was one of overwhelming loyalty and affection. Leading figures in New South Wales organised a public subscription to found a hospital commemorating the prince's miraculous recovery. Thus was born the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, whose foundation stone was laid that same year as a collective expression of gratitude towards the Duke. Similar gestures were made in Melbourne, where another medical institution was named after him, and in Adelaide with the establishment of a college, all ensuring that the memory of his visit would endure. As for the assailant, Henry O'Farrell was arrested on the spot, swiftly tried, and ultimately executed in April 1868, despite Prince Alfred himself, in a display of compassionate moderation, having suggested that the death penalty be commuted and clemency shown. The colonial authorities, however, refused to exercise leniency in what they considered an act of treason, and O'Farrell was hanged on the 21st of April 1868. Recovered from his wounds, the Duke of Edinburgh resumed his voyage. In June 1868, he departed from Australia and set course back to England, arriving on British shores towards the end of that month after a total absence of 17 months. Despite the attempt on his life, Alfred retained a fond memory of Australian hospitality and returned informally the following year. In early 1869, he anchored at the port of Fremantle, Western Australia, and once again visited Sydney and Melbourne, this time without official ceremony, to express his gratitude for the tributes and to inspect the progress of the charitable works established in his honour. His global travels continued with a visit to New Zealand in 1869, making him the first member of the British royal family ever to set foot there, followed by an extensive tour of India later that same year. In the Indian subcontinent, he was received with great splendour by the local princes, who hosted lavish receptions during the 3 months he spent on Indian soil. On his journey back to Europe, Alfred made official stops in Hong Kong and then in the Kingdom of Hawaii, where he was the guest of King Kamehameha V, thus adding even the distant Hawaiian archipelago to the list of lands honoured by the presence of a British prince. After this extraordinary circumnavigation, the Duke and his faithful Galatea finally returned home. In 1871, Alfred was then about 26 years old and possessed an unusually broad worldly experience for a royal of his time, having acted as a travelling ambassador of the British Empire and earned prestige as a naval officer in the process. Once back in England after his long voyages, Prince Alfred continued to devote himself to military life. Yet the next decisive chapter of his story would arise from the personal and dynastic sphere. In the early 1870s, Queen Victoria's envoys began seeking a suitable match for the Duke of Edinburgh, with the aim of strengthening the ties between the British Crown and the principal dynasties of continental Europe. Eventually, in 1873, it was announced that Prince Alfred was engaged to Grand Duchess Maria Alexandrovna of Russia, daughter of Tsar Alexander II. This Anglo-Russian alliance carried considerable symbolic weight, as it represented the first direct union between the British royal family and the Russian Romanov dynasty. Nevertheless, the news was received with mixed feelings within Queen Victoria's intimate circle. The monarch, who distrusted the Russian imperial court and hardly knew her future daughter-in-law, confided certain initial reservations in her journal. On the 11th of July 1873, upon learning of the engagement, Victoria wrote that she felt completely bewildered by the prospect, though she added from the heart, "God bless them. I hope and pray that this union may bring happiness to Afy." Despite her doubts, the Queen gave her blessing to the match, recognizing both its dynastic importance and her son's wish for marital happiness. The wedding took place with extraordinary splendor on the 23rd of January 1874 in the Winter Palace of St. Petersburg. The nuptial ceremony, conducted according to both the Russian Orthodox and Anglican rites, brought together members of nearly every European royal house beneath the icy winter light of the Russian imperial capital that day. The union of Alfred and Maria Alexandrovna, he aged 29, she aged 20, became a historic event linking two great empires. Queen Victoria, still deeply saddened by the death of her husband Albert and reluctant to undertake long journeys, did not attend the wedding in person. She remained at her residence of Osborne on the Isle of Wight during the celebrations. Nevertheless, she wished to follow every detail closely. Her son Alfred ensured she could do so by commissioning the artist Nicolas Chevalier to create a series of watercolors depicting the key moments of the Orthodox ceremony, allowing the Queen to experience the occasion from afar. Fascinated by the visual richness of the Orthodox rite she had never witnessed before, Victoria later ordered a large oil painting of the central scene of the wedding, as a lasting memento of the occasion. The new Duchess Maria of Edinburgh, the title assumed by the bride upon her marriage, wore for the occasion a magnificent traditional Russian gown of silver fabric, richly embroidered with gems and crowned by a jeweled kokoshnik. The ensemble was so heavy that, according to Lady Augusta Stanley, one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting, her head must have ached from the immense weight of the jewels, including the diamond necklace, the most beautiful I have ever seen, a striking testimony to the luxury that surrounded that union. After the wedding, Alfred brought his wife to England, where they made their official entry into London on the 12th of March 1874 amid grand public receptions. The couple settled at Clarence House, an elegant royal residence in the capital provided for their use. Despite the initial splendor, the marriage of Alfred and Maria was not without its difficulties. The Grand Duchess, accustomed to the rigid protocol of the Tsarist court and conscious of her rank as the only daughter of an emperor, displayed a certain hauteur towards London's high society. Her proud bearing and insistence on precedence clashed with British sensibilities, causing friction at official events. This aloof manner, described by some as arrogance, contributed to tension between the couple and certain courtly circles. Though in private Alfred strove to be a devoted husband, his consort's integration into English life remained incomplete. Over time, the disparity of their temperaments and cultures gradually cooled the harmony of their marriage. Despite their differences, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh built a large family and maintained a peripatetic household in keeping with Alfred's naval obligations. Over the course of 10 years, they had 6 children, though one of them was stillborn. Their firstborn was Alfred Alexander, born at Buckingham Palace on the 15th of October 1874. This son, heir to his father's titles, was received with great joy as he ensured the continuation of the family line. He was followed the next year by a daughter, Marie, born at Eastwell Park, Kent, on 29th of October 1875. Their third child, Victoria Melita, was born during one of her parents' stays on the island of Malta, where Alfred was serving as a naval officer, on 25th of November 1876. The fourth daughter, Alexandra, was born in Coburg, Germany, on the 1st of September 1878, while her parents were visiting the ducal Saxon family. A fifth pregnancy ended sadly with a stillborn son on the 13th of October 1879, a loss that deeply affected the couple. Finally, in 1884, the youngest child, Princess Beatrice Leopoldine, was born at Eastwell Park on the 20th of April 1884. The Edinburgh children's upbringing alternated between England, Malta, where their father was stationed for several years, and regular visits to the Russian court and to Coburg to see their maternal and paternal grandparents respectively. This cosmopolitan education prepared Alfred's children for the international marriages many of them would later make, integrating into various European royal families. While his family was growing, Alfred continued to advance vigorously in his naval career. He proved himself a consummate sailor, wholly devoted to his profession and recognized for his tactical ability and sound intelligence in naval affairs. In December 1878, shortly after the birth of Victoria Melita, Alfred was promoted to Rear Admiral at the age of 34, marking his entry into the elite ranks of the Royal Navy's flag officers. In the following years, he held posts of great responsibility. In 1883, he was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Channel Squadron, directing the maneuvers of the fleet that safeguarded British territorial waters. Promoted to Vice Admiral in November 1882 and to Full Admiral in October 1887, the Prince rose to the very summit of naval hierarchy. Between 1886 and 1889, he held the prestigious position of Commander-in-Chief of the Mediterranean Fleet, based in Malta, from which he projected British naval power throughout that strategically vital region. One of his contemporaries, Captain Percy Scott, would later recall that Alfred had no equal as a commander-in-chief. He handled a fleet magnificently and introduced many improvements in signaling and maneuvering, also praising the Duke's keen interest in naval gunnery and the refinement of gunnery drills. Having passed through nearly every conceivable command within the Navy, Prince Alfred reached the highest possible rank on the 3rd of June 1893, when he was promoted to Admiral of the Fleet, crowning a distinguished 35-year military career in the service of the United Kingdom. Beyond his martial duties, Alfred cultivated refined interests, particularly in music. He was an enthusiastic, though by most accounts modestly talented, violinist, and in 1882 he actively sponsored the foundation of the Royal College of Music in London, an institution dedicated to the training of musicians of the highest caliber. He also developed throughout his life a notable collection of fine glassware and ceramics, amassing precious objects gathered from his travels and postings, a reflection of the cultivated aesthetic sense he shared with his father, Prince Albert. At the beginning of the 1890s, Alfred's life took a decisive turn towards his German roots. The reigning Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, Ernest II, elder brother of the late Prince Albert and Alfred's paternal uncle, had ruled that German duchy without leaving any heirs. In accordance with the arrangements made years earlier, the succession in Coburg was to pass, when the time came, to the line of Queen Victoria. The theoretical heir was the Prince of Wales, Edward, as Albert's eldest son. But since Edward was destined eventually to ascend the British throne, it was deemed inappropriate that he should also rule in Germany. Therefore, the Prince of Wales formally renounced his succession rights to Saxe-Coburg in favour of his brother Alfred. When Ernest II died on 22 August 1893, the Ernestine Duchy passed into Alfred's hands. Having just turned 49 that same year, the second son of Queen Victoria suddenly became His Royal Highness, the reigning Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, assuming the responsibilities of a head of state within the German Empire under Bismarck and Kaiser Wilhelm II. This change in status also required practical adjustments in Alfred's life. To reside in Coburg as its ruler, he renounced the annual parliamentary allowance of £15,000 granted to him by the British Parliament, as well as his seat in the House of Lords and his position on His Majesty's Privy Council. Nonetheless, he retained an allowance of £10,000 per year, awarded upon his marriage, which enabled him to maintain Clarence House in London for occasional visits. Together with his wife, Maria, and their younger children, Alfred moved his principal household to German soil, settling in the ducal palace of Coburg and at the pleasant Rosenau Castle, which, fittingly, had been the birthplace of his father, Prince Albert, decades earlier. Upon assuming the duchy, Alfred was at first received with a certain coldness by the local population, who saw in him a foreign prince arriving from England. However, through tact and dedication, he gradually won the respect and affection of his new subjects. He took an active part in the administrative life of the duchy, respecting its local constitution, and supported cultural and educational initiatives throughout the region. His passion for music led him, for example, to sponsor artistic events in Coburg, thus continuing his family's long tradition of enlightened patronage. By the end of the decade, Alfred had earned the goodwill of most of his Saxon subjects, ceasing to be viewed as an outsider and instead being appreciated as a devoted and approachable ruler. The final years of the Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha were marked by both family joys and profound sorrows. His elder daughters married into prominent European dynasties, strengthening the dynastic legacy that Queen Victoria had so carefully fostered. In 1893, Princess Marie married Crown Prince Ferdinand of Romania, later King Ferdinand I, carrying Alfred's bloodline to the Balkans. The following year, Victoria Melita wed Grand Duke Ernest Louis of Hesse, a great-grandson of Queen Victoria, in another alliance between royal cousins. And in 1896, Princess Alexandra married the hereditary prince of Hohenlohe-Langenburg, a German aristocratic house of ancient lineage. Although these weddings took place away from Coburg, they brought Alfred great satisfaction, knowing his daughters were well established. Yet destiny had a cruel blow in store. His only son and heir, Prince Alfred, became embroiled in a scandal in 1899 that would ultimately cost him his life. The young man, aged 24, was involved in an inappropriate relationship with a woman of questionable reputation, which caused tensions at the ducal court. In the midst of the celebrations marking his parents' 25th wedding anniversary in January 1899, the troubled prince attempted to take his own life with a gunshot. Gravely wounded but still alive, he was sent by his parents to Meran in the Austrian Alps, in the hope of recovery away from public scrutiny. Sadly, he died 2 weeks later, on the 6th of February 1899, from internal injuries and complications arising from the suicide attempt. The premature death of their only son plunged Alfred into deep grief. Contemporaries reported that the Duke, usually reserved and composed, was left devastated by the loss, as was the Duchess Maria, whose anguish led her to withdraw temporarily from public life. Alfred's health, already undermined by emotional strain, began to deteriorate visibly after the tragedy. By the end of 1899, it became known that the Duke was suffering from cancer of the throat, a condition perhaps worsened by years of tobacco use. Seeking relief, he retired during the summer of 1900 to the hunting lodge adjoining Rosenau Castle on the outskirts of Coburg. There, far from official duties, he spent his final weeks surrounded by his family. Alfred, Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, died on the 30th of July 1900, aged 55, from cancer that had metastasized. His death occurred barely 6 months before that of his mother, the elderly Queen Victoria, who lived long enough to mourn the passing of her dear Afy, the second child she had lost, following the deaths of Princess Alice in 1878 and Prince Leopold in 1884. Alfred's mortal remains were laid to rest with ducal honors in the family mausoleum at Glockenberg, on the outskirts of Coburg, beside his Saxon forebears. As neither his brother Arthur, Duke of Connaught, nor Arthur's son wished to assume the German duchy, the succession passed to Prince Charles Edward, Alfred's nephew, and the posthumous son of Prince Leopold of Albany. Charles Edward, then only 16, thus became the new duke under the regency of his mother, ensuring the continuation of the Coburg line, though now entirely detached from the British crown. Thank you for joining us until the end of this video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts or insights to share, please let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to leave us a like and share this video with your friends and family so that more people can discover the story of Prince Alfred, Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, son of Queen Victoria. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you never miss our historical content. We also invite you to join our channel membership community, where you'll find exclusive content, previews of upcoming videos, and special material for true lovers of history. See you in the next video.